I love the dancing. Now,
that's fun.
Now it's time for a super fun game. Riley and I tested it out last night, so we know it's going to be really fun.
It's going to be fun.
Who wants to come up? Everybody who raises their hand, remember, is going to get a sticky note to go and get entered to win, to pie us. Raise your hand.
Yeah, so if you raise your hand, you could possibly pie someone.
Even if you don't come up.
Are we going to chat about that?
Oh my gosh, guys, before you come up here, we have something to show you. So let's get your stickies handed out. There you go.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. First, before we come up here to do the game, we want to show you guys the results right now of who's winning and who's in the lead to get pied. Who do you think it is?
Okay, let's talk about it before we see.
Yeah,
let's like do a yell. So if you think it's that person, like give a little shout or something.
Yeah, make some noise.
Yeah. So let's do, if you think that the leading person to get the pie in the face is Caitlin, make some noise.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
Nice.
If you think it's Riley, make some noise. Okay. Who's next?
If you think it's Kristen, make some noise.
Ooh,
oh, that was pretty
a
loud.
One.
All right.
If you think it's David, let's hear it. Whoa, I think it's even all around.
It's tied, folks.
It's tied. Let's see the real results, okay? Are you ready? Drum roll. All right, let's see it.
Is it not in the...
It's not on the slides. Shoot.
Well,
let's see.
Let's improvise. So, it's not on the slides, so we're just going to tell you.
We're just going to tell you, because we looked at the results beforehand so that we knew. We did our homework. Okay,
right,
so
drum roll, please.
Again. And Riley is in the lead. Yes. And then it's
second place.
It's David. David is in second place. He's catching her though. Then it's me, and then it's Kristen.
So now that you know who's in the order, you can go and vote for anyone besides me, and then maybe we can help me out a little bit. So make sure you go online to vote. If you write on your sticky who you want, it doesn't count. So go online to vote.
It's on our Instagram bio and on the Peace website in the youth section.
Yes.
Okay? So if you want to have a voice in this and decide who gets to get pied, that's where you go. All right, those of you who got a sticky, raise your hand.
Got the sticky.
Okay, we need 2 volunteers. 1 girl and 1 boy. Let's see. You pick the boy.
Okay. So many hands.
Boys raising their hand tonight.
Hands.
Those of you who don't get picked, remember to put your sticky out there with your name on it.
Okay, back right corner with a hat, I believe. Hat, yes.
Yeah, woohoo!
All right, come on over.
Let's hear it for our volunteers.
Woo!
They haven't even done anything yet, but they're gonna.
All right, let's
you guys,
explain it.
what's your name?
Nora.
Wait, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nora. Nora.
You know me.
Gavin!
Nora and Gavin.
Hi.
All right. So these 2 are going to use, oh my gosh, you guys, this is so fun. It's called the slow motion race game. And they have to wear these meter things on their head, and then they turn it on, and it's going to kind of track how fast they're going, and they have to slow motion race. And whoever picks up the trophy first is the winner. But get this, if they go too fast, it's going to make a buzzing noise. So then, when they make the buzzing noise, you guys have to start over and go back to the starting point. Okay?
All right, so the starting line is going to be this line right in the floor right here. So I need you behind this line, please. Gavin, over here on this side, please.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
Perfect.
We did this last night at my house in my living room.
All right, so you're going to both push your button. There's a button on the top right at the...
Okay.
Okay, all right. And now you get to go. So walk in slow motion to Caitlin. If it buzzes at you, you have to come back to me.
It's playing music, but you guys can't hear it. Should have microphones on them, huh? Dun, 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 dun. Oh! Shoot! Gavin, how are you doing this so good?
Okay.
Gavin,
Is Gavin's on? Gavin, so far. All right, you can go.
I'm leaving it here now. I changed it. You're going to find me.
You got it. You got it.
Oh.
Slow and steady wins the race.
There is a method to this, I think.
What? What is it?
I don't know.
I didn't know.
Ask Gavin, because he's really good at this. Careful, careful.
Watch for the light to go on. Watch for the light.
We got it. Oh, that was close race. That was close race. Let's give these kids a hand.
Hey,
Thank you. Thank you.
hey, good job.
Thank you, guys. Maybe we'll bring this out at Bingo Plus Day. So
Ooh.
who else wants to try it? You got to come.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
for playing.
Thanks for. Oh, look it, guys. Here's the results.
So there's only 17 responses, so it looks like a lot for me, but it's really not. So
as you can see,
Please vote.
Riley's in the lead.
please vote for anyone else.
Then David, if you want to see it change, go and vote, okay?
Also, you can write in. Don't forget that option, Jordan.
Oh yeah, write in. Have Vic or
But
Jordan
anyone
come
at
up.
all.
Everybody, David is coming up to give the message tonight. Let's give him a nice welcome. Woohoo!
No, I didn't really expect that. It was so silly. I was just being silly.
We're silly. We like to be silly.
Hey, everybody. Hey, that was a nice response. All right, who could tell me who we talked about from the Old Testament last week? Nice. That was a quick answer. Hey, so we are moving forward in time from Abraham. But before we do that, I got a really great word for you to learn if you don't know it, and it's on the screen. How do you say that word? Patriarch is actually, that was good. Patrick, that's a guy's name. This is patriarch. Patriarch. And, well, let's just, before I talk about it, go to the next slide. Tell me if you can tell who the patriarch is in this slide of my family. Which one? The guy with the beard and the hat? Yeah. Do you think that's my family? It's not. I couldn't find any pictures of my family. My mom has all of the big family pictures. But yeah, it's kind of obvious who the patriarch is, right? Because he stands out. So back up, if we go back up to that word real quick, to the slide before. So patriarch, there's two words in there, patra or patre from the Greek. And so it means, sometimes it gets translated as family, but it actually comes from the word for, anybody want to guess? Father. Father. And ark is a word for arche, which means leader. So it's really simple. So father, leader, or family leader. Now, if the leader of the family was a mother, what would the word be? You guys know this, probably. It wouldn't be patriarch. What would it be? Something ark. What sounds like mother that also sounds like patriarch? Matriarch. Very good. Someone's thinking matriarch. Over there we go. Get the right person. The guy with the hand. Okay. So why the word patriarch tonight? Okay. Now, ladies, you're not going to like this, but in the Bible, Old Testament, the culture was a patriarchal society, meaning that the leaders of families tended to be fathers, grandfathers, all right? The men. That's just how it was, how it is, okay? How it was then and how it is when we look back at it. And so why that word, though? There are three guys in the Bible, Old Testament, that are often referred to as the patriarchs, in the Old Testament. That doesn't mean there weren't other patriarchs, but there were three very important male leaders, father figures of the Old Testament, God's people. We talked about one of them last week, and that was again? Well, this half of the room knows it. We talked about it, and last week it was? Abraham. Thank you. Thanks for joining in. Abraham. And does anybody know the next two? All right, so you guys have been paying attention. Very good. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are called the patriarchs because that is where God started this idea of his special family, his special nation, and they were the leaders. And again, patriarchs. So I don't know if you guys have this in your family. Not all families, are arranged this way these days. But like my family, for a long time, the patriarch on my dad's side was my grandpa, Arnold Forkey. He had a great name, Arnold. His actual name was Eric. First name was Eric, but he went by his middle name, Arnold. And I always thought that was really weird myself. But anyway, so Arnold, Grandpa Forkey, was the patriarch of all of the clan, so to speak. If he had something to say, you listened. And when we gathered together, when it was time to pray, all right, that's how, because he was in charge and he was the one that was leading us. Okay? So like in the picture, you could tell that guy was a patriarch because he really stood out. And he got the respect. He was in the middle. Okay? Now, my grandpa is gone, my father is gone, and so one could say I'm the patriarch of my family because I'm the oldest male of my family. I don't have a very big family yet because my kids don't have kids yet. I don't have any grandkids. I know I look like I should have a bunch, right? But I don't yet. Okay, but I could be the patriarch, or I will be, so to speak. Not that we organize ourselves that way, but you get the idea. Okay, so God talks about it so often this way in the Scriptures. He says this, he says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We've got a scripture that goes with that. So here's one place where he said it. He said, God said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel. This is when he sent Moses to save them. He said, Yahweh, that's the name he gave to Moses, which means I am. We've heard that before. He says, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, Yahweh, the name that you'll remember for all generations. But it's important, he gives them a name, but then he makes sure they know who he is. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why does he do that? I think that what he's doing, he's telling them, I am the God of the promise, of the covenant. We talked about this several weeks ago. I am the God of this family that I started, and you are part of that same family, so you are my covenant people. All the promises I gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they continue on to you. And that's why he uses that term in the Scriptures. And that's an important thing for us to remember as we read the Old Testament, that is what the message that God is always giving to us, okay? So Isaac, last week we also talked about Isaac, the son of Abraham. Remember Isaac? He was the son of laughter. That's what the name kind of means, because Abraham and Sarah were way too old. They weren't supposed to be having children. And God said, hey, about this time next year you're going to have a baby. And who laughed? Everyone. Maybe other people laughed, but who laughed in the story? Sarah. She's like, that's ridiculous. That ain't happening. No way. And so when she did have a baby, they named him Isaac, the son of laughter. But also, he was also called then the son of the promise, because there was no way that he was going to be born in a way that people would understand in a natural way. It had to be a God thing. Okay? And so he was a son of the promise. Now, Isaac grows up, and now he becomes the patriarch. Okay? Now, Isaac, there's not tons written about him in the story, but what we see in Isaac is that he was a pretty faithful guy. Oh, remember this. I forgot about this. Do you remember, Lynette talked about last week, Abraham and Isaac went up on a mountain because God told them to. Remember what happened? And Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac because God asked him to. And it was this test of faith. So Isaac has this whole memory going on about God providing and all that kind of stuff. Isaac was a pretty faithful guy, but turns out that he wasn't necessarily the best dad. And let me tell you why. So actually, first let's talk about some issues, family issues. So Isaac had two sons. Anybody know their names? You should know one of them. Jacob and? Isaac. No, Isaac is the dad. He has two more sons now. Jacob and? Elijah. Sounds good, but no, Esau. Two sons. All right, again, notice that there's an emphasis on the male thing, and I'm sorry, ladies, this is just how it's going in this time, okay? Focus on the boys, Jacob and Esau. So what I need to know is, how many of you out there have a brother? Okay, so you can relate to this story maybe a little bit. How many of you are a brother? Okay, who's got an older brother? Who's got an older brother that irritates them a little bit? One of you come up here. I want to talk to you for a second. If you have an older brother that bugs you, come up here if you're willing. Come on up. Okay. Who's got a younger brother that irritates them? Who's got a younger brother that irritates them? And ladies, I'm gonna keep with the brothers. I'm sorry. This is just because we want to keep with the story. If you got a younger brother that really bugs you, come on up here. We want to talk for a second. Anybody? Younger brother? Okay. I am the youngest of 3 boys in my family, and so I can relate to this. What's your name?
Jackson.
Jackson.
Brett.
Is there anybody back there to turn this on for us? Yeah, there is. Yay, Jordan. There we go. Say it again.
Jackson. Brett.
Okay, so you guys get along with your brothers?
Pretty well.
Pretty well?
Not really.
Not really? Here, you guys hold that back and forth. Actually, we'll get the other one for you. So here's my question. What bugs you about your younger brother? Whoever's got the younger brother. There you go. Hold that up there so you can hear you.
They're annoying.
How? What way?
They bug me.
They just bug you. Okay. What bugs you about your older brother?
Ignores me.
He ignores you. Okay. Does your older brother ever pick on you?
Sometimes.
How does he pick on you?
Usually makes me do stuff that he doesn't want to do.
Oh, makes you do stuff like
Yeah.
chores and stuff that he used to do, but he kind of makes you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Does your brother ever come home and just like throw you on the ground and then put his knees on your shoulders and then hang Louis over your face?
No.
Oh, that my brother
He
did
does
that.
not.
You got loogie? Is that
Once in a while.
is that an understandable word, loogie? Like that's a loogie. My brother used to do that. Okay.
It has happened.
Sit on my shoulders and then kind of hang it out of his mouth, and then it's gross. Anyway, so you pick on you any other ways like that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. You ever feel like your younger brother like gets treated better than you?
Yes.
He gets like the better deal? How does that happen? Give us an example.
He's just younger. When he wants something at a store, he gets it.
He gets what he wants. Okay, so it's kind of a favoritism thing going on?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you do about this stuff when you're upset with your brothers?
I don't do anything.
You don't do anything? You
No.
just deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for you.
I deal with it.
You deal with it. So you guys don't try to get back?
No.
Well, you guys are better brothers than I am, I'll say that. Okay. So, all right. Well, thanks for coming up, guys. I just wanted to get us thinking about that. Jacob and Esau did not get along like that. We're going to watch a little video because this video will tell the story better than I will and more quickly than I will. So let's take a look.
God's story, Jacob and Esau. So part of God's story is about twin brothers, and it begins like this. Once, there were twins named Jacob and Esau, and they didn't get along. They actually started fighting before they were born. Then during birth, Esau came out first, but Jacob was holding on to his heel. That's not normal, and they even look different. The Bible says Esau's body was covered in so much red hair, it was almost like he had clothes on. Jacob's skin was smooth. Well, they got even more different as they grew up. Esau hunted animals and spent time outside. Their dad, Isaac, was a big meat eater, so Esau was his favorite. Jacob, on the other hand, was a quiet guy who liked to stay indoors. Their mom, Rebecca, liked Jacob the best. The Bible doesn't talk much about Jacob and Esau as kids, but we do know Esau was lucky to be the oldest because he had what's called a birthright. That meant Esau would be in charge of their family, including all their money, land, and stuff. Jacob would probably have to work for his brother Esau, and their dad Isaac would give Esau a blessing, which means Isaac would ask God to take care of his oldest son Esau in an extra special way. Well, you probably think Esau was pretty excited about this, but he wasn't. In fact, one day he gave it up. He'd just returned from a hunting trip. Since he was out killing animals all day, he didn't have time to eat. He came home starving. Jacob was making stew, so Esau said, "Quick, give me some of that stew. I'm very hungry." Now, Jacob was a little sneaky, so he didn't just share the stew with his hungry brother, which would have been nice. Instead, he said, "First, sell me your birthright." And guess what? Esau said yes. It's a little like paying $1 million for a bowl of mushy soup. We don't know why Esau did that, but the Bible says he didn't care about the birthright. But later, when Isaac was really old and about to die, he wanted to ask God to take special care of his firstborn Esau. So he told Esau to go hunting and make him some tasty food, maybe for the last time. Now, Esau wanted the birthright, so he left right away to hunt. Meanwhile, Rebekah had heard Isaac and Esau talking, and remember, Jacob was her favorite. She wanted him to get the blessing, so she did something really sneaky. She told Jacob, "I will prepare tasty food for your father. You take it to your father to eat. Then he'll give you his blessing before he dies." See, Isaac was blind. She was telling Jacob to pretend he was Esau. But there was a slight problem with her plan. First off, Esau was hairy. So if Isaac touched Jacob's smooth skin, he would know the truth. The Bible says Esau had a certain smell too, which might be a polite way of saying he stunk. I mean, imagine how smelly a guy would be if he was always sweating and getting dead animal blood stuck on his clothes and matted in his hairy skin. And this was before deodorant. So even though Isaac was blind, he might smell Jacob or touch his smooth arm and know the truth. Well, Rebekah was sneaky like Jacob. She told Jacob to put sheepskin on his arms and wear some of Esau's smelly clothes. Now Isaac would never know. And even though Isaac wondered why the voice sounded like Jacob, guess what? The trick worked. Jacob got the blessing. Now Esau would have to work for him. As you might imagine, Esau was furious. In fact, Rebekah had to help Jacob run away so Esau wouldn't kill him. What's really crazy about this story is Jacob messed up big time, but he really did get God's blessing. Esau even forgave him later. We don't know why God let this happen, but the truth is we all mess up sometimes, and God still wants us to be part of his story. And that's the story of Jacob and Esau. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Jacob and Esau were twins. They were different. Jacob tricked Esau. Esau sold his birthright for stew. Later, Esau wanted his blessing. Rebekah helped Jacob trick his dad Isaac. Jacob got Esau's blessing. Esau was furious. Jacob ran away, but God still blessed him. And that's a part of God's story.
Wow, that was fast and furious. That story sound familiar to any of you? If you've been going to Sunday school at all, you should have heard that story a few times. So here's my recap. We don't understand or relate to this whole idea of the birthright, okay? But this was really a big deal back then because that was how they passed the blessing on. All the children would get blessed, but the oldest son would get the bigger blessing and would kind of carry on the family name and eventually be the patriarch. That was just the big deal. And Esau, that blessing, he just sold it away. For whatever reason, he didn't respect what was going on in the family. He sold it to Jacob. Now, Jacob was sneaky about it, right? He could have just given his brother some food. So he wasn't a great guy to begin with either. And then later on, he wasn't happy with just getting the birthright. He wanted the blessing. And again, this is something we might not quite be understanding, that, you know, the families today, you don't have the dad going and giving special blessings and say, God bless this child more than this child. But this is just how it was done in the culture, okay? As I said, Isaac maybe wasn't the best dad because he played favorites from the beginning, and it caused more of this turmoil between the two brothers, okay? And so then Jacob tricks his dad, he tricks his brother out of not just the birthright, but now this special blessing and all this stuff, and he has to run away. Now, there's tons more to this story because when he runs away, now he's got to go figure out how to find a wife and how to move on with his life. And if you know the story, he ended up spending 14 years working for his uncle in order to get the wife that he wanted. And that's a whole other story. We can't even go into that, okay? But the point is so real of what he said, is that in spite of all of that sinfulness, in spite of all that sad stuff, God had a plan, and the truth is that he said at the very beginning, before these two boys were born, that he was actually going to bless Jacob. That Jacob was ultimately going to be the one who was going to carry on the promise. We don't know why he chose him, but he did. So Jacob didn't need to do all that trickiness. He should have just trusted God. But because God had a plan, that sinfulness of Jacob did not get in the way. And in fact, Jacob continued to be kind of a trickster and got himself in trouble sometimes, but God always took care of him because that was God's plan. And in fact, when Jacob comes back, ultimately he will reconcile with his brother Esau, but on the way, he ends up having this really weird night. And he's camped, and he leaves his family, and he's across the river, and he runs into a guy who turns out to be an angel of the Lord, and they have this crazy wrestling match. Anybody hear that story before? And he realizes after a while, this is not an ordinary guy. He realizes this is something from God, and he says, I'm not going to let you go till you bless me, and he gets a blessing. And what's interesting is this, is last week, Lynette told us that often God would change people's names in the Old Testament after they had a special encounter with him, and he would change their names to show them something about what they should be learning from all this or what was in store for them. And Jacob's name was changed to, anybody know? It actually is the name of the nation that would come out of this family, and the nation, God's nation, is the nation of Israel. So he changed Jacob's name to Israel. And he said, well, Israel means one who wrestles with God. E-L. Whenever you see E-L like that at the end of a name, that's the short term for God. He said, your name is now going to be Israel, one who wrestles with God. See, now that's not necessarily a good thing, right? One who wrestles with God, shouldn't we? We should be following God, not wrestling with him. But God says, you're a wrestler. You wrestle with me, and I still love you. And you can sin, but I still love you, and I am going to do my plan through you and your family because that's what I promised all along. We can't stop God's promises no matter how much we mess up. No matter how much we turn away from God, God makes good on his promises, on his covenant. That's where we started a few weeks ago. So, Jacob, his name is changed, and he becomes a changed person eventually. Now, he still has some real problems with being a father, right? Because he has how many sons? You know this. How many sons did Jacob have? Close. Keep going. Another biblical number. What? 12. He has 12 sons, we'll find out later, okay? And that's where the 12 tribes of Israel ultimately come, okay? But now Jacob's a patriarch. He's got 12 sons, and they're going to have family and all of that. But it's all part of God's plan. It's all part of God's plan. So what's the bottom line? For you and for me, we are still God's people, people of the covenant. That covenant to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob passes on to us, and it's ultimately fulfilled and renewed in a whole different way through Jesus Christ. God's covenant to make us his own, to care for us, to provide for us now and forever. You and I, we're part of that same line, okay? Now, we didn't inherit it because of being physically born from that family. We inherited it because of what Christ has done for us. But we're part of the same promise. And as people of the promise, the bottom line is this, is that God does not give up on his people, no matter how we mess up. God doesn't give up on us. God's plans continue in spite of our sinfulness. His plans continue on, and he has good plans for every one of you, in spite of how you might sin, in spite of how you might mess up, in spite of how you might hurt somebody else, in spite of all the things that you will do, things that I do to goof up. God has plans, good plans for you and for me. And we know that because of what he's done for us in Jesus. That's the bottom line. We are people of God's promise. And so when we look back at the Old Testament and see how he dealt and cared for his people, then we know he cares for you, he cares for me in the same way. That's the bottom line. You guys can go. I did not have time to write up any questions for the group discussion. I suggest you talk a little bit about that bottom line there. And maybe you want to look a little more into the stories of Jacob, because there's a whole lot going on there, or talk about what you remember learning in Sunday school. But you guys go and have a good night. Thanks for joining me tonight.